What is good, ladies and ungentle fans? My name is Blake Melvin, and this is The Bridge. In today's episode, we'll be highlighting Eric Gordon's injury. He suffered an ankle injury. 2 weeks in a row, the NBA has officially had no positive corona tests leading up right into the eve of the reset. The NBA reset in itself, there was a doubleheader today, New Orleans, Utah, and the Battle of LA. And we'll also touch on things that you might have missed throughout the week. It's been a very entertaining week in the news cycle of sports. So I'll pull out some of my favorite headlines that we can dive deeper into. Now, without further ado, it feels great to be back. Let's waste no more time and let's go for it. Diving right into it, during Tuesday night scrimmage against the Boston Celtics, Houston was suffered a relatively strong blow, depending on how you look at it. But Eric Gordon for the Houston Rockets suffered a sprained ankle that's expected to keep him out for the next 2 weeks. Now, Gordon has been suffering with injuries all season, long before the reset. I mean, he only played, roughly 34 games before the shutdown. And he just seems to be picking off where he left off in the bubble. If you're a Rockets fan, this loss may hurt for a second, but you shouldn't honestly worry too much. Losing Eric does hurt the depth and the rotation, but when Eric was healthy this year, he wasn't super effective with his averages. I mean, only 15 points a game on 29 minutes with a horrendous shooting split. He was shooting 37, 32, and 76. For y'all who don't know, a shooting split in the NBA, it's your field goal percentage, your 3-point percentage, and your free throw percentage. So 37% from the field overall is very, very poor. 32% from deep, that's really around what Joel Embiid shoots. And 76% from the foul line, there's no excuse for that to me. You know, they're free for a reason. You have to hit those. So, to me, Eric Gordon's not really a huge loss, but it's a big name loss because it's a household name. Everybody, or a lot of regular to casual NBA fans know who Easy Gordon is. But I expect Austin Rivers to step up a lot in his absence. I think Austin has the ability to have some big breakout games in this playoff run as an X factor. So when I mean like a big breakout game, I don't mean like a 40-point game, but he might break out for like 19, 6, and 6, which would be huge. More production than Eric has gave him, and I won't expect that often, but that's someone I'm looking to utilize more minutes and have a more sustainable success. So look out for that. Let's see who steps up in Eric Gordon's absence. I don't think it hurts the Rockets per se too much, but you never know. You know, I'm pretty sure Eric's a good locker room guy. He's well liked, so you never know. Sticking with the NBA and the bubble, this is the second week in a row the NBA has no positive corona testing, which is a huge deal because going into the season to reset the bubble, a lot of people question how the NBA could do what the government can. Well, let's just say a lot about our government, but it's not for that. It's not the type of podcast. But the NBA has actually been able to do just that, and for 2 weeks in a row, have no corona cases in the bubble. Let's break down the timeline. Over the last month and change, the NBA has watched the positive test count drop from 6%, which was before the bubble happened, and all the pre-tests to see if you can travel with your team and woo. Then to half of 1% the first week of the bubble, to now back-to-back weeks with 0 positive test samples on the eve of the reset, which is the best news the NBA could possibly hope for all this happening. Sticking to corona-related news, I'm pretty sure you all heard about what happened with the Phillies and the Florida Mariners. I can never say the name correctly, but the team from Florida decided to party in Atlanta before coming to the game. A couple of guys had COVID. It didn't spread. good news out of MLB. They were the only team to have positive testing for the Rona. So it doesn't look like the MLB will suffer any setbacks. A couple of games were suspended just out of, safety, which is good. It was a good step that the MLB took. But I don't think it will be too much of an issue moving forward if teams and players just are smart about their interaction on and off the fields and courts of play. And for the NFL, I believe last time I checked, they only had 27 positive tests for reports coming back. Training camp just started for them. A lot of teams did the welcome to training camp corona test. And roughly 27 guys out of everybody who've been tested has came back positive, which is a great number for the amount of individuals who are on the NFL team, in the NFL locker room. A lot of big name guys has also decided to, back out of the season, which I respect their choice. I respect their decision. It's family first. Family comes before any of these sports, and that's what they feel as though they have to do. That's what they have to do. As a Philadelphian and an Eagles fan, I am happy to hear that most of our guys at the moment are going to come back. They're going to play. If you haven't heard, Lane Johnson was one of the couple of Eagles who does have the coronavirus or tested positive for it, and it's now on a corona reserve that they have. So yeah, that's the updated pandemic news in sports. As it looks, things aren't going to slow down sports in the moment, which yay for all of us, but we still want everybody to stay safe. Practice safety first, practice safe protocols. Woo, woo, woo. The NBA is officially back tonight, July 30th, 2020. After a long 4 months, we have real competitive basketball back. And yes, it might come across as a glorified scrimmage, but it is totally 100% real competitive basketball. And I am excited for many reasons. First of all, I'm excited about how they're going to really broadcast these games. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Opening night doubleheader, what I'm looking forward to is competitive basketball. How the major networks use different films and audio techniques to create a sense of immersion for the audience at home. I mean the rail cams, I want them to pump in the noise, video fan reactions, and we had a glimpse. If you guys were able to watch any of the scrimmages, we had a glimpse of them trying out all of these little things here and there, and I think everything was a hit. Honestly, if you can put it all together, I think you can package a really good broadcast for the viewers at home, as well as making it a little bit more entertaining for the basketball players. Even though just watching the scrimmages, I can see they don't need much motivations. These guys are just happy to get out there and play ball, and yes, that's what I want. Speaking of what I want, I also wish they mic'd up a lot of these players while we watch them. I can see why not. If you just watch Melo grab a rebound, it'd be very hard to keep it regulation TV guidelines micing up a lot of these players. There's a lot of words and things that have been said or that are said during the course of a game that you might not want to hear at home. But I personally think that it would have been a great experience to get some of these guys mic'd up. Now, some of these guys are so loud and vivid anyway that you get to hear what they say. The cameras under the court, I don't know how many of you guys know about that, but they not cameras, excuse me. They had microphones under the court to kind of get closer to the action. But all you hear is repetitive squeaks of the sneakers. I think they should cut that out. That wasn't really a good look. It was more annoying than anything. But like I said, we have basketball back. If you guys listened before, you know I do a lot of game picks. And just to celebrate the return of the NBA, I am going to go through every game over the weekend and give you guys my picks. So please pay attention. I want you to hold me accountable. Next week, I'll come back and see how well I did. I'm picking every game. I'm not picking games that I know. So if it's a 50-50 split, give me a break. So let's dive into this and see who do we have coming up over the weekend. We already know our first two games. Thursday night is New Orleans Pelicans and the Utah Jazz. I'm going to New Orleans to start this game off. If Zion plays, and I'm not actually sure if Zion's going to play or not. New Orleans been talking a lot about managing his health and trying to make the playoffs. They're trying to walk that fine line. It's the first game back. He hasn't practiced too much, but if he gets at least 20 minutes, I think it's enough to help New Orleans win this game. And then to finish the doubleheader, we have the Battle of LA. The Clippers, the Lakers. This is a tough choice for me. The Clippers are going to be down two pivotal guys in Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams. And I was leaning towards the Clippers at first, but I think it's going to be the Lakers. It's opening weekend. All eyes will be on LeBron James. I think he makes a statement. I'm going to go with the Lakers. Friday games. To start off, we have Orlando and Brooklyn. Without saying too much, I am taking Orlando on this. I think they're very slept on. They can beat any team when they get hot. And I don't think Brooklyn is going to be that great in this bubble situation for many of reasons. Game 2, Memphis, Portland. I'm going Portland. Then we got Phoenix, Washington. I'm going Washington. Boston, Milwaukee. The Kings versus the Spurs. I'm going Spurs. And then to wrap up Friday's game, we have Houston, Dallas. I was going back and forth the entire time trying to decide between these two teams, but it looks like I'm going to lean towards Houston only because Dallas does not play defense. I think this game is going to be a high-scoring, run-it-up game and probably the best game on Friday's night's rundown. So if you can, check that out. It will be a late game, but check it out. Houston, Dallas. Saturday, we have Miami, Denver. I am going Miami, Utah, and OKC. I'm going Utah, New Orleans, and the Clippers. I'm definitely taking the Clip show in that one. Philadelphia and Indiana. I think Philadelphia rolls over Indiana. And LA and Toronto. I am going once again with LA, which kind of makes me want to pick the Clippers game 1. I think LA splits their first 2 games, but whatever. In this scenario, they're winning the first 2, so I'm going LA over Toronto. And to wrap it up for the weekend, in Sunday's games, we have Washington and Brooklyn. I'm taking Brooklyn. Portland, Boston. I'm taking Portland. Might want to take Boston in there, but I'm taking Portland because of those size advantage. Portland got the big guys back. I think they'll pound Boston down low, and that's going to be a kryptonite for the Celtics throughout the rest of this 8-game season and this playoff run, is how they handle teams who can actually play the ball in the paint. We got the Spurs and Memphis. I'm going Memphis. The Kings and Orlando. I'm going Orlando. Milwaukee, Houston. I'm going Milwaukee easily. Dallas, Phoenix. I'm going Dallas. So that is the rundown for those NBA games this weekend. Tell me your predictions. Tell me what you think. Hit me on the socials. Let me know what you think. I'll keep track, see how much I got right, how much I got wrong, and then we'll come back next week and we'll take a look at that. Add up them numbers. All right. In case you missed it, it's the segment of the show where I like to highlight events in the sports world that happen throughout the week that I have found interesting and could be talking points for you or anybody else in the future. To start off, Joe Burrow signed his rookie contract. Congratulations, Joe. 4-year deal, $36 million, fully guaranteed, with $24 million on top of that just for showing up, which honestly is a steal for a starting QB with his projected talent. I just hope it translates. Lou Williams will miss the first 2 games of the reset, having to re-quarantine himself after going to Magic City during his excused family emergency leave. Now, Lou claims it was just to get lunch, and word around town is the wings at Magic City are legendary. It's just not a good look for Lou. And if really lunch was the thing, he should have just had a quick grab and go type deal instead of posing for pictures with Jake Harlow and things of that nature. But it all ends up working as like a 2-day suspension, as he will miss the first 2 games, re-quarantining for 10 days moving forward. I wouldn't really criticize him too much. I was joking and making fun all week about Lou going to Magic City, but honestly, down there, that is also known as a really good food spot. So Killing two birds with one stone, I guess. More Clippers news. Another 6th Man of the Year candidate Montrezl Harrell has still not made his return back to the Clippers after 2 weeks of leaving the bubble for a family emergency. No, he did not end up in Magic City. Something serious really is going on with his family, clearly. So we wish him all the time that it takes to get whatever the situation is handled or better the situation. Our thoughts, my prayers goes out to Harold. And whenever he comes back, the Clippers will bring him back. He will be quarantined, but I think the last thing they're worried about is when he's coming back. On a positive note, he has been tested while at home. His results came back negative, so he's still following guidelines. He's still staying safe. He's still protecting himself. He's just handling what he has to handle at home, which we respect. Do what you gotta do as a man. Come back though. When you come back, be ready to play. I know you are. Harold's a constant professional. He's been in the league for years now. He'll be fine. The Clippers moving forward, though, being down to two of the bench players, really key bench players, to open up the first couple of games, could be a little bit iffy. Kyrie Irving pledges $1.5 million to the WNBA, two WNBA players who decide to opt out of the season through the Kai Empowerment Initiative, which he founded. So say what you want about the man. To me, he's more than in tune than a lot of us. His actions are screaming over his words. And if you're in the WNBA, I'm trying to push this movement, especially this season where you won't make too much money because your league won't produce any money. You're going on the same time as the regular NBA is going on, which is already going to hurt the viewership that lacks. I say take that check, guilt more people into donating. I say guilt because I personally don't see where that money is to serve just off the product that you put onto the court. That's it, nothing else. And this is coming from a person who actually takes the time out to watch WNBA games. Speaking of the WNBA, star and champion Ariel Powers gets into the dumbest Twitter war with Finals MVP Andre Iguodala over a tweet Iggy put out saying number 23 is nice, while actually watching a live WNBA game. Now, Powers' issue with Iggy didn't take time out to look up her name. Powers' issue with Iggy was he didn't take time out to look up her name before tweeting. And I won't really get into it because it's all nonsense. It was a bunch of back and forth. He said, she said, and a bunch of WNBA women started to chime in, woo, woo, woo. Iggy kind of slightly stepped aside and said, the manners. But I think it just adds to the difficulty that WNBA has at building a wider viewership and fan base. It's very hard to get into the WNBA because far too often they come across as overly arrogant, like Brittany Griner claiming she can be a prime boogie 101. They're rude in socials. They attack, and then they stay in denial about the state of the game and why they don't have that equal viewership, why they don't have that equal play. And it's a lot of excuses instead of the main one, which is the product on the court is not that great to watch. Time and time again, I've seen very horrible to average ball play watching the WNBA game, and it's more frequently than watching good to great play. This does not mean women can't hoop. I know a ton of women hoopers that will hoop any one of us listening right now. But as a collective, professional product, it's just ain't it yet. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that was episode whatever. This is The Bridge. My name is Blake Melvin. Thank you for listening to me rant about whatever I want. Our next episode will come out sometime early in the next week. Until then, stay good, stay classy, stay happy, and I love y'all. This is The Bridge.